Hi, my name is Martina Paiotta and I am an Italian geopolitical analyst. And this is one of my few videos in English. And my goal is to make myself known abroad too. Today we will talk about a topic which is part of one of my projects in English. And next week I have to discuss this project in English. So basically I am training with this video for you. And I hope to have a bigger audience, not only in my country. We will talk about how the end of the Cold War shaped US presidential language and foreign policy. Let's start. Before the end of the Cold War, US presidential language was based on a strong dichotomy. And this is because the world was divided into two large blocks, the social communist one and the capitalist one. The socialist communist one was led by the Soviet Union, while the capitalist one was led by the United States. It was an ideological clash, not a real war on the ground. And this is the reason why this was called Cold War. The Western Bloc, under the leadership of the United States, was considered a democratic system, while the Soviet Union was portrayed by the West as an autocratic system. But in reality, things were a little different. In fact, United States were hiding neo-imperialist ambitions, and to hide them, they have to use propaganda as best as possible. On the other hand, Soviet Union controlled only his geographical sphere of influence. We are talking about East Europe countries. Soviet Union had no global hegemonic ambitions. United States had it, and this is why United States wanted to destroy all the socialist countries. And with the end of the Cold War identified in the dissolution of the Soviet Union, the US never abandoned that rhetoric based on a strong dichotomy, and they started accused other new countries, of being the new enemies of the West, in particular of the United States, Yugoslavia, Iraq, Libya, and so on, till Venezuela and Iran, Cuba. Nowadays, since the end of the Cold War, United States had begun to speak openly about their hegemonic ambitions. Let's think about Clinton. Bill Clinton openly spoke about enlargement and global goals. In other words, he openly spoke about global military interventionism. If during the Cold War United States talked about containing social communism, trying to reduce Soviet sphere of influence, now United States can speak openly about hegemonic ambitions, because without the Soviet counterweight, they know that they had become the strongest country in the world that can do anything. No more need to hide behind a fictitious language, a fake language. United States can now speak openly and directly. In fact, they talk about military global aims. But to legitimize their actions, like the military aggression against Iraq or against Libya, they started to slander many other countries. For example, during the 9/11 period, the terrorist attack on the Twin Towers, Bush played with the terror of the population, saying that Iraq will soon attack the West, attack the United States, could attack United States, Europe, but no proof of that, not a single proof. The goal was instead to overthrow Saddam Hussein because he was becoming too powerful for the United States and no American interests in the Middle East if Saddam Hussein was ruling. Saddam Hussein had no correlation with the 9/11, not a single correlation between Iraq and 9/11 events. But Bush spoke to the population blaming Iraq for terrorism. Bush wanted to ensure consensus through the population, through the public opinion. And something similar happened about 10 years later in Libya under the Obama administration. Gaddafi was a very influential socialist leader in Africa and in the Middle East. And Gaddafi said, "No American interests in our lands." But United States started to talk about Gaddafi as a terrorist, as a brutal dictator, and soon Gaddafi was killed. And all the post-Cold War rhetoric has remained absolutely dichotomous. Because if the United States says that we are the good ones and the other countries that don't conform to the West system are the bad ones and represent a threat for the West, especially for the United States, with no proof of threat, not a single proof of threat. United States are entitled to do anything without any consequences for them. Let's watch how Trump speaks nowadays. After the violations in Venezuela, after having violated the Venezuelan sovereignty, Trump has openly talked about taking all the oil at the American conditions. No need of a diplomatic language. No need of a diplomatic rhetoric. If I stole the oil from another country, no one can do anything to me. If I started a war against Cuba, Venezuela, Iran, if I support a genocide in Palestine, no one can do anything to me. Because after the end of the Cold War, a US-led world was shaped. Because the United States had begun to act as an international police state, where they dictate the rules. And if I am the police, no police can stop me. And if I am the ruler, no rules against me. That's all.